Hello, Star Wars fans. Hey, you know there are just 67 days until Christmas 2021. Oh, I hope you're already shopping because those delays may get you if you don't get started early. Hey, we've got a fun show today. We're going to kind of get into some Legends material and talk about how that may become canon, or how at least the character may become canon. And this is all based off of some speculation that Star Wars Meg had. And I see you there, Meg. Good to see you. And we'll explore this character in depth. And I've got a couple of guests here to discuss with you. A couple other little quick announcements is that we will not be having a live stream tomorrow or Thursday. Look for us to be back Friday for the Hasbro. They're having their what do they call that? I keep wanting to call it HasCon, but it's not HasbroCon. They call it let's see, Hasbro. They have it'll come to me in just one second. It's their big annual event starts Friday, and their Star Wars content is let's see, HasLab. It's I'm almost there. I'm almost. It's not coming in, but we're going to cover PulseCon. That's it, Mark. Thanks for putting me out of my misery. Oh my goodness. We're going to cover PulseCon on Friday, and we'll get my friend Martin Keeler, also known as Zuvium. We'll get him on as well, and we will talk about the reveals. And I have a pile of boxes here starting to accumulate that we can open when we get chance during the stream. So I've got a whole bunch of them starting to pile up. There's some more coming, so look forward to that as well. And we'll see how well these people ship the figures. So we've got that coming. And then Santa and Mrs. Claus are going on vacation for a couple weeks. So we will try to do some live streaming next week, but it may not be able to be done. If not, then what we'll do is we'll have some more Rebels watch along in Discord, and we'll get started into Rebels season 3. So look for that. So that'll be how we do it. So if you've not joined our Discord, you should. That's where we'll do those watch parties, and we'll stream the video in there, and we can chat about it during it. So let me bring in, first of all, a Magic Maker, because we've got some information to share as well. Hello, my friend. How have you been?
Hello, hello. Yeah, you're where we're at with Rebels. We're at season 12.
Season 3. Yeah. Well, I wanted to bring you in to start because we're going to revamp our weekly show starting after vacation. Oh yeah, I need to start Meg's music. Just one second. Let me. Oops, I hit the wrong button. Share. There we go. I've got to pull that. I had it ready, and then we had some technical difficulties. There we go. Meg's music in the background. We've got the Hoth ambience, so you'll hear that playing. So anyway, we're going to kind of revamp
You can
our
blame it all on
weekly.
me.
Oh, yeah, we're going to revamp our weekly show, and we're going to talk about uh, fan fiction films in on YouTube. A Magic Maker is going to find some YouTube clips or videos for us to watch. We will review them. We'll talk about them and share them with all of you so that we kind of dive into some fan fiction. So I'm looking very much forward to that.
Yep. Well, we might start with some oldie but goodies, and then we'll do this and maybe we'll back and forth or something like
Exactly. We've got there's a wealth of material to explore, and so we will do that with a Magic Maker. Again, starting in November. That'll be starting. It'll be like every Tuesday in November, and we'll get into it. And it's not going to be limited to that. We'll talk about other Star Wars news. We'll talk about things that are coming out, but the meat of the show will be these fan fiction things. So that's what we're looking forward to, and I wanted to have you here to announce that, and we'll be looking for. Hey, the Matt Cave. This is my first Santa live stream. Oh, good to
Then you
see
came in
you.
on a good one.
You did, because we've got another good friend with us. I've got Levi Bond from All New Nerds. Hey there, Levi. How are you?
Hey, I'm well. And to all of you who think I've been gone, don't worry, I'm still paying my elf union dues. I pay my $10 every month to Santa. So I'm
You
still
did.
here. I'm still paying. I've just been busy, but I'm still here.
You're
I'm
still
still
here. Oh, it's great to see you, Levi. And I thought maybe we would be right before we came on. You said I didn't think this would be the topic we would do next.
No. bit of a strange one that you
But
left field.
it's really good. Let me see. I'm just playing around with the different layouts. There's a whole bunch of layouts here you can play with in stream. And this is Melon. So Melon, they've got. We can do that. We can do
That's a funny one.
We
Magic Maker and I look up to Santa, the big Santa head.
so we'll do that. And you know what? I'm going to swap you with me. How about that? Put you two on top. What we'd like to talk about today is A-Sharad Hett, and also known as Darth Krayt. And there's a reason for this. I think a week ago or so, Star Wars Meg put out a video where she kind of speculated that we could see A-Sharad Hett in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Oh, that would be huge. So my perception is that not a lot of people are familiar with that name. They would not know who that character is. And so I thought, well, this would be a great opportunity to bring a couple of folks who know a bit about lore, who know a little bit about A-Sharad's history or Darth Krayt's history, and introduce him to our viewers, and then talk about, well, what would it take to bring him in? What changes would be needed to his character, his backstory, or where his character could potentially develop into Darth Krayt, and just kind of explore that whole realm. So I reached out to Levi. He said, "Let's do it."
Yes, I responded.
Yeah, here we are. So just a little bit before we jump in. They announced that actor. I think it was last week, and I can't remember his name at the moment. And there's different possibilities that actor could be playing. And part of that, too, is there's been some rumors that we're going to see a type of character that we've not seen before. And he fits the bill for that. A-Sharad Hett fits the bill for a type of character we've not seen before. We've seen Jedi, we've seen Force users, but we haven't seen somebody quite like him. And I think that it fits into the time frame. I think it fits into the story scope, and it certainly fits in with this actor's skills. So let's introduce him a little. And Levi, give you a chance give us just a 10,000-foot view of who A-Sharad Hett is, and where he would be at this time point.
Well, I think the most relatable way to introduce him to everybody is that this is Ki-Adi-Mundi's Padawan. So the guy with the tall head who says, "What about the droid attack on the Wookiees?" This is his Padawan. And after the Clone Wars, he survives Order 66, and he was, well, sort of skipped the big part of his origin, which is his father was also a Jedi, but then left the Order and became a Tusken Raider, and then raised him as a Tusken, and then became Ki-Adi-Mundi's Padawan. And then after Order 66, at this time, when Obi-Wan takes place, he would once again be with the Tuskens. And in Legends, Obi-Wan beats him as a Tusken, and that's when he goes off into the unknown regions, and then we can talk about all the Sith stuff later. But at this time, he would be an ex-Jedi who's a Tusken Raider. So
it's a little random why a Jedi would hide or adopt the Tusken culture. Now we understand his dad did that, right? So A-Sharad Hett, and I can't remember right off the top.
It's just Sharad Hett. It's just without the A.
Yeah. Sharad Hett. He became a Tusken. Do you know why he became or adopted that culture on Tatooine?
So this story is from the first arc of the just Star Wars comic when Dark Horse first reacquired the license. Late '90s. It's coming out right before Phantom Menace, and for whatever reason, the first arc of that issue Ki-Adi-Mundi was the main character, and so as far as I'm aware, Sharad Hett got disillusioned with the Jedi Order. He was like a hero. It's sort of like Porter Engle in the High Republic. He was this Jedi who was really good at killing people, and that sort of messed with him because he was like, "Is that really what I should be doing? Like, I'm good at killing, but I'm supposed to be this protector of the light." And so, as far as I'm aware, he becomes disillusioned with that. He's stranded on Tatooine at one point. He sort of finds serenity in the sands and becomes one with Tusken culture, and then raises a son who as a Jedi. That's from memory, I think, is what the story is.
That's really good because it gives us more like a wayfinder almost, where they from the High Republic novels, because they can't quite align with the Jedi Order. It doesn't exactly make sense because it doesn't always seem like the Jedi Order is following the will of the Force, and that's what we see in the High Republic. And I'm having trouble with her name. The white lightsabers.
Orla Journey.
Orla. I absolutely love Orla. She's a great character, but she gets a little disillusioned with the Jedi Order and says, "I'm not sure the Order is where I belong. I'm going to join. I'm going to go this Pathfinder, Wayfinder path, right? The Wayfinder path to become one with the Force, or to become." Kind of in the flow of the Force, right? So that's the way we have with Sharad Hett, is he's kind of disillusioned with the Jedi Order. Is this really what the will of the Force is? And he ends up on Tatooine, and kind of adopted into the Tusken way, right?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, it's a self-imposed exile. He deliberately takes himself out of the equation to go be in nature.
Hey, and there's Lolly, our head elf. She has to drop off. Thank you so much. And she's coming home tonight. I'll see her tomorrow. She'll be here. But yeah, and just for a little bit of clarity, Tuskens are not necessarily human.
No. So yeah, these two individuals happen to be adopted into that's a whole big reveal during the Republic, as Anakin. So during the Clone Wars, when Sharad Hett's a Jedi Knight alongside Anakin has big PTSD when working with him because he has this Tusken mask on, and he's like, I cannot, I hate everything about you. But then he takes the mask off eventually in this moment, and he's a human, and he's like, what? How are Tuskens human? He's like, I'm not a Tusken by blood, but they raised me and stuff. It's this whole emotional thing. But right. No, he is not a Tusken species. He is just adopted into the culture.
So that is fantastic, and so it makes sense then. A-Sharad is brought on as a Padawan, as you mentioned, Ki-Adi-Mundi, the tall-headed dude from the prequels, and he's Padawan.
He's the Star Wars Conehead.
Yeah, the Star Wars Conehead. That's it.
Ooh, Park Outdoors has a really good. I'm sorry to cut you off, but Park Outdoors, I had the exact same Hasbro set back when Hasbro made some really cool, interesting thing for us kids. That's part of why I know who this is too, because I had that action figure from 2006, and I was like, I don't know who this is, but it's this guy who's a Tusken and he has a red lightsaber. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but it was really cool.
If you have it, it's worth quite a bit.
Yeah, yes, it is. I do not have it anymore, but I did
Sad.
As a child. Yes,
sad. You know who does have it? Mark Hamilton.
Yes,
he has it.
Oh, that Mark, that Baymax, that. Speaking of which, I do have a Zuvio right here. That's not a joke. Do you? My Zuvio is on the wall, right here. I wish I could show you, but he's mounted. It's so close to me. That's not. I swear.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
My closest Black Series.
So A-Sharad, it makes sense when Order 66 happens. He survives. Does he leave during Order 66, or has he already left?
A-Sharad or Sharad?
No, his son A-Sharad.
No, he has not left by Order 66. He becomes sort of
he's still with
type
them.
character.
Yeah, so basically he's out on a mission, and when everything kicks off, he's able to, because he's not surrounded by his army, he's on a scouting mission, he's able to escape the Order 66.
Excellent. So it makes sense why after Order 66 he goes to Tatooine. It's not random. Not like, oh, he just happens to be there because Obi-Wan is there. No, he goes there because that's where he was sort of raised. He was part of that Tusken culture. And during the aftermath of Order 66, it makes sense that, yes, Meg, I have the same thing going on. A Magic Maker's only in my left ear. Levi is good in stereo. Uh, but a Magic Maker tickles my left ear right there.
I'm sorry, I'm just left-handed, I guess. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
It makes sense why he goes there and why he secludes as a Tusken. So to put it in context of the Kenobi series, now Kenobi series is like 10 years after Order 66, if I'm correct, right?
Right in the middle. Yep.
Yep. So 10 years after,
Yes, Meg.
that was a gift for you, Meg. I said that because I knew what you were going to do, and I couldn't help it. So
I'm glad I could oblige.
there you go. There you go. It
Just don't
makes
tell my
sense
wife.
why he's there, and he would be there during the series, right? When in from Legends material,
Yes.
when Kenobi, just by the way, Kenobi meets A-Sharad there on Tatooine in Legends.
Yeah.
So here we get a chance to perhaps marry them up, right? Bring A-Sharad from Legends into canon.
Now, because this goes into a discussion about canon, and I think in general you can have a really interesting discussion because Darth Krayt and especially Darth Talon around him have always been this weird, like, almost so they get so close to being in stuff that like George wanted to do and Lucasfilm wants to do. Like you can see Talon still in the Force Awakens art book. Like the ideas of these characters, for whatever reason, just really grab creatives, and so it's almost canon. But I don't think doing it in the Kenobi show is the way to do it for me, because I just think that show is getting really, really busy. If everything we've heard about it is correct, like you're watching Rebels through right now, it's supposed to be this connection to Rebels and the Clone Wars, and like if this is true, and I did watch Meg's video, if this happens, like this show is just gonna be like,
Right.
I don't know how they're gonna do that. Like that's just like, I don't know. But yes, I mean
No.
the timeline lines up. I give you that. It perfectly lines up. But I don't know.
No, yeah, he's right. It lines up just fine. I mean, but I mean, that said, I mean, right now what we see in play out is pretty darn close to what we saw in the Legends as it was. I mean, they're obviously bringing back Thrawn and when they brought him back in Rebels, and then we see him appear in the Mandalorian, and so now we're looking at that, and then the Emperor Return, which is the same as Dark Empire, and he was a clone. So I mean, Legends is aligning with what we see in canon, if not exactly, it's lining pretty well with it. And
Yeah.
And so bringing back A-Sharad Hett, Darth Krayt, which is what he becomes. He's not here yet, but A-Sharad Hett, and having that him go to Tatooine, become a warlord on Tatooine, seeking revenge against the settlers, and then being confronted by Obi-Wan, who is of course protecting Luke, lines pretty well with what we're seeing so far in the development of canon and its alignment with Legends.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that as well, and I don't want to take too much liberty with what Meg has told me, because we've made Meg is a very close dear friend of mine. I absolutely love her. She's a very important person outside of the Star Wars universe, outside of our channels. She has just become a dear friend, and I don't want to do anything that would reveal anything we've talked about just as friends. And she did share that part of why she's kind of leaning into this is that it was mentioned sort of early on when they brought the director in, and she said that could we fit this character into the story? And it just seems like, well, if there was some intent at some point and things line up, that it could be really, really uh, uh, probable even that this actor that was hired is going to be that person. So, I heard you, Levi. I heard you.
Well, I would, because you clearly talked to Meg, and I think that there's a great possibility. A Magic Maker just laid it out that this could, like, maybe it's the first episode, and it deals with. It's very similar to how first episode of Mando on Tatooine, you deal with the Krayt dragon. This one is Obi-Wan has to protect Luke from the Tusken threat. So before you get into any of like the Vader stuff, there's still this like, oh, this is a big thing, and maybe it sets up a thread for later on. But in
Right.
terms of Kumail Nanjiani, who is in the thumbnail here, you can see his buff
Yes.
body below a Magic Maker.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll play him because I'm pretty sure he said his character sits behind a desk, and I don't think that was like Obi-Wan or
Yeah.
Well, and he
Osh-Rod
also
Hett,
mentioned being in space. All right.
Yeah.
So it raises part of the other. Oh, man.
Well, I mean, if you think about this, I mean, he clearly uses his lightsabers, and he as the warlord, and he's attacking the settlers. So, if we're going to have a reason for Inquisitors to be on Tatooine, and yet not discover Obi-Wan on Tatooine and Luke, then it would be that they discover and somehow force A-Sharad Hett off Tatooine, which then of course leads to his, he continues on his path to set us up to go hopefully to Korriban or Morban as it's called in canon, and so I look forward to that because I'd like to return there, and I think that'd be a great setup for a future series as we revisit A-Sharad Hett as Darth Krayt.
Yeah, and both of you have mentioned, and we need to get there, I think, pretty quickly because the A-Sharad Hett piece of it is a fairly short piece of his story, right?
I wouldn't say that, but
Well,
yeah.
he lives a very long life.
Yes,
right?
yeah, okay, yes, I'll give yes. I just meant in terms of the comic issues I have read, there's a lot of comics where he's A-Sharad Hett, but yes, you're right. Like there is, yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
What you want. Sorry.
Yeah. He lives a very long life, and only a fraction of it is known as Ashrad. He becomes Darth Krayt. You both mentioned that. It's not a secret. Like, spoilers, it's old Legends material. So it's sort of like giving away the original trilogy. If you haven't watched it, it's too late at this point. So we're going to be talking about things that could happen in the new canon. But I think that it can't just be straight lifted. And there's a couple of reasons for that. As a Magic Maker mentioned a little bit ago, even with Thrawn, there are some things that can't be lifted directly, say from Heir to the Empire, right? That trilogy of books. There are some things that don't align. And we're going to end up with the same sort of problem or challenges with this character. I think it aligns up really, really well for when he and Obi-Wan first meet, right? It could be almost exactly page by page what we had in Legends in those comics.
Yeah,
Be really
close.
close.
Right. Yeah.
But then you run into some issues. And let's just kind of lay out the rest of what happens with Ashrad. He becomes Darth Krayt. Krayt, as a reference to the Krayt dragon, he kills a Krayt dragon, right? And he takes on this mantle of Darth Krayt. And he adjusts the rule of 2 to the rule of 1. And his Sith, sort of his Sith empire, if that's the right word to use. And then he goes into these periods of stasis where he lives for a very long time, but there are big gaps, right? So it's not like he is actively doing things for 100 years. He's in stasis for decades at a time, and then he comes out and he does things, and then he goes back into stasis again. And this is where things start to get a little convoluted as far as just kind of trying to encapsulate it. But and there was a question before, could he show up in the Book of Boba Fett? Well, I would have to look to see if that was a period of stasis or not. Like, I haven't done
Well,
that
no,
much homework.
it's not a period of stasis. So during that period of time, so what happens after he's defeated by Obi-Wan on Tatooine is that he flees off, ends up on Korriban or Moraband, as it's known as canon, and he is as he becomes a bounty hunter, and so if he were in the book of Boba Fett, it would be as a bounty hunter and maybe as a flashback. But by the time that the book of Boba Fett or in the Mandalorian's coming, he is already gone to Moraband, uh, and he has started training as a Sith from a holocron, and from one of the original Dark Jedi that went to Korriban and began the Sith as an empire and a hyperspace war and all that. So that piece of of Legends plays out,
Right.
and then and so what we have from there is that so he would be he would have come out and he lies low. He actually doesn't do anything in that period of time to thwart or get involved in fact, I think he would probably still be on Moorband.
Yeah, he was
And
on Moraband throughout
and
the entire OT. Yeah.
Yeah.
so OTAR, but I think also through what was the Heir of the Empire series and the Dark Empire series, he was also on Moorband. So like he doesn't return until Luke has an established Jedi Academy.
Very
So
good. Very good. So
and
let me pause you there for just one second, a Magic Maker, because I want to go there next. But there's one thing I want to address before we get there, and I saw Meg says no, no, not the book of Boba Fett. The question was, could he? I think technically he could, but will he? No, I don't think he will.
Yeah.
And there's lots of reasons for that. Uh, but I don't think he's in scope at
I
all
also
for that
feel
time
like
period,
we should
for that
mention
story.
why he has to go into stasis, because I
Okay,
feel
so
like because that's a part of the Legends thing that really can't mesh with canon. So
right,
one of the parts of his character, so yeah, he becomes disillusioned after the fight with Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan chops off his arm, and then he becomes a Ventress like character. He's like a bounty hunter, and then tracks the guy to Moraband and like gets lost in Sith stuff, and he's like, oh my god, what's happening? But then he comes out of that, and he's like, oh, the Empire already fell, and it was this kid Luke Skywalker who did it, and then he realizes like Anakin was the one who brought down the Jedi, and he's like, God dang it, I could have killed that kid when I knew him, and he was like crazy, and I could have saved the galaxy. And then he's like, and then his son killed the Emperor while I was trying to do my own thing and kill him, and he was like, oh my God. And then so he goes off into the unknown regions because he's just essentially so like depressed, and then gets captured by the Yuzon Vong, which is a thing that just doesn't exist in canon. And they put these things in him that like are like actively trying to kill him, and that's why he goes into stasis to try and prevent them from killing him. And so
right.
it's like that part of him just like the Vong haven't been able to come into canon yet.
So there you go. You've mentioned, and this is sort of why I wanted to put a pause on, and I do want to get back to where a Magic Maker was because it's important. But Yuzon Vong, and a Magic Maker, you mentioned earlier about they're bringing in Thrawn, and the Yuzon Vong is part of that whole legacy storyline.
right,
Thrawn trying to protect everybody from the Yuzon Vong. He realizes
right.
they're a great big threat and all of that. Well, the Yuzon Vong don't exist, as Levi just said, right? We haven't seen them. Would they use Darth Krayt to introduce the Yuzon Vong?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I mean, but I think that we'll probably get introduced to it as part of the story elsewhere. I mean, we do know that there's an enemy to the Chiss ascendancy, so out there, and just because they use Almond has a different name does not mean what will be the equivalent of the use Almond doesn't re-enter into the Gris. That's right.
Yeah.
Into canon, and so we have some sort of equivalent, and we also have gotten introduced into the Neil and the High Republic. So there's something else that's out there, and that we're aware of. And I'm not sure where that's going to go either. Or if that's the
Yeah, you cut out there for a second, but let me just touch base real quick because the Grisk and the Yuzon Vong are not synonymous. They're not the Yuzon Vong by another name. The Grisk are a threat, but they have different.
Very
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I'm not saying they're not very different. I'm just saying that all I'm saying is that we have a tendency in. I mean, so the point of it is in Legends they take something. The idea of a canon to Legends is that it's similar but not the same.
right.
And so we can have these parallels, but they're not exactly the same thing that we saw. So if the Grisk are different, I get it, but I mean it's the point of it is that you have this enemy that has
Right.
technology or has ways that we don't understand, and will begin to be developed, and we'll see how that correlates with what would be Legends, because Legends. But I think the idea behind Legends is that you have these stories that were similar or that were taken, as they passed across the galaxy, and we had a game of telephone telling us about the story, and that's how it was passed along.
Yeah. Well, so I want to just really hone in on that. We have the Grisk already established in canon. We know what that's going on there in the Thrawn Ascendancy novels, all of that. That's great. By the way, if you've not read the Thrawn novels, you should. They're so friggin' good. And we get the conclusion of the latest trilogy next month. So
Yeah, I'm
it's
very
coming
excited.
up. I am so excited for that book. I can't even stand it. I'm really, really excited.
We get
And
Coop in here. We'll start talking
oh,
about ascendancy stuff.
we will get Coop in here. We will talk about Thrawn and that trilogy for sure. But uh, the question is, could we end up with the Grisk and the Yuzon Vong? Or do you think the Yuzon Vong is a dead story to be left in Legends, not to be brought into canon? That's where I really want to kind of say, would they use this character to introduce another enemy, the Yuzon Vong?
Yeah, I think that it's not happening. That's my personal opinion.
Um, See, much like why I think there's credence to this whole entire conversation is because Talon, who is directly related to Darth Krayt, almost was in a freaking movie.
Right.
The Vong are something that were almost in Clone Wars as a different version of the Vong themselves, because George, like, to make it work within even George's canon, you had to make them sensitive to the Force. Because the whole thing about the Vong is that the Force didn't affect them, and there was no Force in them. And I was like, And I've always
Right.
been like, I don't know how I feel about that. But the Vong were almost in Clone Wars. You can see Dave Filoni's drawing of the Vong ship and the Vong guy, and so I think you could plausibly reintroduce them into canon in their own way. Because the whole thing about them is they're
Right.
extragalactic. They're not from the galaxy far, far away. They're from a different galaxy far, far away. And they came to the galaxy. And the Grisk and all that stuff in the unknown regions is still within the galaxy. So I feel like the Vong being, whoa, it's outside the galaxy, could still have that kind of impact.
Yeah, I'm I'm on the fence, just me personally, because I have all along the problem with the Heir to the Empire series being brought into canon as it is now, and this is where a Magic Maker kind of introduced it a little earlier, is that the I wasn't convinced they were going to bring in the Yuzon Vong. I thought, well, they're just going to kind of contextualize and make it the Grisk. And the Grisk is going to be the big threat. That's going to be the motivator for Thrawn. That's going to be what is out there. And that's where they're going to start exploring. I've been in that mindset all along. Now, here comes a whole different kind of puzzle piece. And I'm like, wait a second, pause yourself there, Santa. I think it's possible they could go open up this Pandora's box, right? They could open up the Yuzon Vong to bring in, and we've said, well, many of us have said that Star Wars has a small universe kind of problem. We keep visiting the same places, the same people, the same kind of storyline with the Skywalker saga. But there's a lot of universe out there to be explored, including the Chiss Ascendancy, the Yuzon Vong, the Grisk, and potentially plenty others. Mandalore, that has only been kind of scratched the surface of, right? And I'm now thinking, well, if you're going to introduce A-Sharad Hett in the Kenobi series, he's not going to be. Well, let's take a step backwards. How integral to Obi-Wan's story is A-Sharad Hett?
Um,
In Legends, or would you say in
Yeah.
canon?
Well, in Legends and where we could potentially go in canon.
Minimal, I'd say.
yeah,
Minimal impact.
minimal in Legend. I think it'll be more important in the as far as this is concerned, in the sense that it's the ball that gets rolling that causes the Inquisitors to come to Tatooine, and then gets us involved in the search for Vader's search for Obi-Wan. I think that's kind of the process.
Yeah, I get the feeling that in Kenobi's story, that it's a page in the book. I don't even know if I call it a chapter. It might be a chapter. Let's call it a chapter in the novel that is Obi-Wan's life, right?
Yeah, I actually think that Levi's correct, that it's probably the first episode that starts the whole thing and creates the impetus for things moving in the story, and so we're gonna get one episode of A-Sharad Hett and the whole thing, and that's
Yeah, and yeah, I agree with you both there, and I think it's to introduce his character. Do they
right.
introduce his character and then use him, or do they just they just put it out there and don't come back?
I think they had to just plant the seed, because I, for one, don't see this happening at all. But if they were to do it, I think you got to do the first episode thing, and it's just to plant the seed. I don't think it has to be part of the Obi-Wan story, but making it just like, this is the episode's villain, and then cameo, and then he has to appear later for that to
and then,
pay off.
Then that's done, and we don't address A-Sharad Hett again.
Right. I'm not suggesting that they would explore his story in the Kenobi series. It's quite the opposite. I think that at most they introduce his character in the Kenobi series, but then do they do anything else with his character?
Just in general?
I think it'll play out. Yeah. I mean, I think they're setting things up for, I mean, as it is, I think it's like 130 years past ABY when he finally arrives. And you have the one Sith Empire. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that reappear in the same timeline. That's because it's the only way you can play him out and have the Sith return and still have and I guess in this case it'd be Rey's descendants in the future as opposed to Luke's descendants.
So there you go. You raised the other point that causes a problem, and I think Levi was kind of hinting there before. The Yuuzhan Vong put a thing in it. If you want to think of it as sort of the shrapnel that's in Tony Stark, right? That's going to stop his heart, right? He has to keep this mechanism on to keep him from dying. Well, A-Sharad Hett, Darth Krayt, he ends up with this thing that I don't even know if "thing's" the right word. The Yuuzhan Vong implant inside of him that is
seeds.
Seeds that are going to kill him. And so he goes into stasis for long periods of time, trying to get to a point where there is a cure. Well, along the line, he comes by a dude who is really adept at healing.
Force healing. Oh boy.
Oh boy. Who's really adept at healing. So happens this dude that he runs into is a descendant of none other than Luke Skywalker, right? What's his name? It starts with a C. Cade. Yeah. So Cade Skywalker, he's a grandson, a great grandson, something like that.
I don't think we know the exact. Well, no, because Cole is his dad. It might be great.
Great grand.
Yeah. So several greats in there. So he's several generations past. One problem we have is that we are unaware of any descendants of Luke Skywalker in current canon. Not to say that there can't be,
Yeah.
but we are completely unaware of any, right?
No, that's true.
I mean, okay, here's what I'm thinking. I think maybe you recanonize Mara Jade in between 6 and 7, and then they break up instead of being together, but maybe they still have a child, and that's how you can continue the Skywalker thing afterwards. It's like the lost bloodline. That I don't know. That's just something I came up with like right now because I don't think it's that crazy. But
like I said, what I originally thought, with if you explain Luke's depression with, and his running off with the loss of, Mara Jade being, killed by, Kylo Ren. I mean, I think that sets you up for a man who's defeated and realizes the only way that he can face him is in his rage, giving into the dark side. I mean, I think those two things make a hopeless Luke, and I think if you had that, and then he thinks his child is dead, we discover the child is still alive later. I mean, that would be the way I would do that.
Yeah, I'm with Imagic Maker on that, and I don't know that. So I think that if they were to recanonize Mara and have them have children, and he sees in a vision that Kylo would kill his wife and children, that kind of that part of the tension, right? And maybe the event that happens where the Knights of Ren, not Kylo specifically, to kind of burn down that temple, that he flees from there, believing that his wife and children are dead.
What do you mean by that, Trev? Luke's son is Ben. What? Do you mean like Ben Skywalker in Legends? Or
Oh yeah.
that really confused me for a second because I was like,
yeah. So what would they name his son? And right, there's a big mess there, right? So I think that.
Oh, it's easy, Jason.
Yeah, you can pull Jason.
You swap them. Yeah.
Just swap them.
Swap them. Yeah. So Han has
Santa. Santa Skywalker.
Nicholas. Yeah. But those are kind of a problem because
or you go with like a sort of more like Reylo fanficky thing where Ben, when he revived Rey, she got impregnated somehow and then has a kid.
Well, that's still not Luke's child.
True, but it's still Skywalker blood.
It's still Skywalker blood, and would be born a Skywalker.
Sure, I get that, but I'm just saying, there's at this point, as the story is in
I see
Legends.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
we can't make a direct line. So we start off with A-Sharad Hett, where he's like perfectly lined up with Legends. There's nothing that really out of line that would keep him from showing up in the Kenobi series. Fully Legend like storyline, right? Chapter by chapter.
Right.
It fits. But by the time you get to Darth Krayt, 130 years, 120 years?
Yeah, it's like 130.
130 is when he comes back, yeah.
Yeah. Then we've got some problems to deal with. One being the Yuuzhan Vong. We don't have them in canon now. The other being Luke's descendant, because Luke doesn't have any descendants at this point. And so what I'm suggesting is that they could absolutely reintroduce the character, and I can't remember if it was you, Levi, or it was Imagic Maker, who said, look, they've been introducing some of these Legends concepts, Legends characters, but with their own kind of spin on it. Take the Grisk, for example, right? So it does seem like, well, Sheev's saying, well, there's Jason Syndulla. Yeah, that's still not a descendant of Luke. So, yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. It's a real conundrum.
It is.
I kind of think they're going to go down the line of Rey Skywalker and her descendants. I mean, I think that's kind of the path I think they'll take. And to me, unless you're going to, which I don't think they're going to, unless you're going to completely throw it into a different timeline and that whole world between worlds theory that that so many people seem to have.
Yeah.
But I don't see it playing out that way. So I mean, I think that the Rey Skywalker descendant coming about is the way to go. And then and then it starts making sense why we have the rumors of Daisy Ridley kind of coming back and doing some stuff with that. So as we start to develop a story, she's going to have some cameos. Some piece of it's going to be there, and so this is developed, and we pass it on to the
I agree with you, and you have this legacy of Force healing that comes through her line, right?
I think that's the path that we get.
Yeah, I think you're right there. That if you were going to pursue the Darth Krayt storyline that happens 130 years after, then it's a descendant of Rey, not a descendant of Luke, which will make some canon junkies lose their friggin' minds because they're so opposed to Rey being in canon at all, right? So if you canonize Rey as being Darth Krayt's great grandma or whatever, they're going to lose their friggin' minds.
I don't know why. I don't know why she'd be Darth Krayt's great grandma. But you mean Cade Skywalker?
Oh, Cade Skywalker. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, my brain did a bad thing.
Flip.
Yeah. It did. I did. Yeah, Cade Skywalker's great grandma. Right. Great grandma. Cade Skywalker, because now she's Rey Skywalker. Her descendant could carry on the Skywalker name, even though it's not by blood. And there you have it.
I don't want to take the conversation too far away, but I'm a big fan of that legacy comic run, the where Darth Krayt is the main villain, where this is from, and then like one of the reveals of that comic was that he was A-Sharad Hett. Like we didn't know that going into it. Like that was the reveal of the story. It's like, oh my god, he's this character we knew all along. But I really like that story, and I sort of wanted a lot of the concepts in that to be recanonized to make a story that's set after Episode 9, but like right after Episode 9, like the story of the galaxy come back, because ultimately the finale of that is that there's like this galactic alliance where the remnants of the Galactic Empire and the Republic all like they have to become one government to be like, no, the Sith are bad, we're gonna be our own thing, and we can like get along together and just get rid of the Sith, and we can have peace in the we can cooperate with one another, which I think is a really powerful message. And so having something like that after Episode 9, like the remnants of the First Order coming with the remnants of like, because the people, there's no like government after Episode 9, like it was just people. And so like I think it would be a really fascinating concept if the galaxy has to like reckon with, say, I don't know, one of Snoke's like other apprentices, or Palpatine's other, like, because that was mentioned that he had other apprentices, like the third string guy who was left on Coruscant, like Ray Sloane's. How about Ray Sloane's daughter, who was like, she was this person in charge, and then she gets knocked off by Snoke, and then like her kid is just like left in charge in Coruscant. And then Palpatine comes back all of a sudden, everything goes to hell, and now the galaxy's in chaos. And I think it'd just be a really cool dynamic of like those legacy plot lines, but applied to the post Episode 9 era of like the galaxy could really fit. But to bring the point back to Krayt's whole thing is that he recreates the Sith again after, and so doing that after Episode 9 of like, the Sith are done, and this was a problem in Legends too. Wow, all the Sith are back again. It's like, well, how many times are the Sith going to come back? Like, it just, I don't know. If you were to do it that far out, I think it may be fine, but it would, I think, create some, I don't know, inconsistencies with canon.
Well, and that's
and you have the problem that what Palpatine says, that I am all the Sith, right?
Yeah. Well,
you have that issue.
And I think in both cases, Rey and Palpatine were more figuratively all the Sith and all the Jedi, but not literally all. But in any case,
you have all those voices and everything. It kind of
understand.
Basically saying they're channeling all the power. So
I understand, I think that there's some figurative speech in there, but that's me. It doesn't really matter. What I'm kind of.
I see you drop me to the bottom. You don't matter anymore there, man.
Well,
I'm dropping you to the bottom.
I did that because when I highlight a text and it goes right over my face, then I'm like, peeking over the top. And since you don't have your camera on, okay, yeah. So I think the A-Sharad Hett fits really well. It goes right into canon. But the implications of where we would go with Krayt is problematic to current canon, and if you were to bring him in, you have to make some changes. You have to make changes to say Cade Skywalker. You've got to make changes to potentially to use on Vong. You've got to make all kinds of things like that that create problems for your legacy junkies, the people that are really tied into legacy
Legends
lore.
or EU junkie. I mean, it's
Yeah,
we've already deviated from the Legends, and we've talked about they're talking about bringing Legends back to help people who like that universe of Star Wars better to enjoy Star Wars and let stuff get written in that, and that's fine. I mean, I'm of that opinion. I mean, I like Legends better than I like current canon, but I mean but that's me, and and I can go down that path and enjoy it. I mean, it wasn't like there wasn't already 2 universes in Star Wars as it was, really 3, because you had the Clone Wars multimedia project as well in Legends, and then so that's deviated as well, from the Legends stuff that was done in the multimedia project versus what George did with the Clone Wars made the series.
A-Sharad Hett being one of those things. Like
Right.
he wasn't in the show at all, but he was a big part of the Clone Wars before the show existed.
right. Before the show existed, right? And I just think that my fear with doing any of these kind of characters, and I saw like Bane mentioned before. I saw we talked briefly about Mara Jade, talk about Darth Krayt, and the implications that could have for Nihilus, the implications that could have for Talon, right? Like those are huge legacy, like EU characters, but then you would have to make changes. And when you make changes, people who are really passionate about the legacy of those characters, they get kind of bent.
Yeah.
But it was always
Right,
going
but-
to be the case, especially with.
unless you just go ahead. Sorry, Levi. I apologize.
Oh no! I just because it's on the brain because everyone's favorite Lucasfilm employee Pablo Hidalgo was tweeting about it the other day in a really interesting thread where someone asked him about, was Maul always supposed to survive the Clone Wars? And he was talking about how it was something that evolved in post-production, and then eventually got to talking about how he was eventually supposed to be like what Palpatine was in Episode 9 to George's sequels, all the way up through the Disney acquisition, through like 2012. And that Talon was like going to be his apprentice in that. And then you can still see that in like I said in the Force Awakens art book, like she's there. That's not a joke. Like that's not rumor milling. Like he's talking about it. Like she's in the art book. Like, and that was something that was really going to be part of the plan. But obviously, if you have Talon, but she's not in the legacy timeline and has nothing to do with Darth Krayt, is that really Darth Talon? Like it's just a different character. So George was always going to be taking these things. Like he like Ayla Secura, for example, or Quinlan Voss. Like he liked the designs of the certain things in Legends and would take them and then just do his own stuff with them. And
Right.
so
You like the aesthetic.
yeah, he liked the
Right.
aesthetic. And it's like I don't know if it ever would have been canon, but we definitely like this has already been something that's been played with at Lucasfilm. Is taking some of these things and putting them into a different version.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying.
100% true. Even like Mara Jade, it's commonly known that George was not a fan. Right? He did not like the idea of Luke Skywalker getting married and having children. Like he was passionately opposed to it. And if you were to continue that, then you're going directly against his wishes. And if you bring her in some way, it's going to have to make changes to what we had in the EU content and her legacy. So if you and I highlighted Roland's comment there because look, we can get some of these favorite characters. We can get Mara Jade or Talon or Vishit or lots of them, right? We can get them, but they're not going to be necessarily what you knew from the Legends material. And is that
Yeah, I
okay?
mean, like some of my favorite characters, my Sith characters, are from that legacy. Like Darth Whirlock, especially. Like I love that guy. He's like Darth Krayt's second in command, and he's like the smart Sith. And Darth Malady, who's the intelligence master of the Sith Empire. Like these are characters that I love, but they're 130 years in the future, and if you bring them in now, does it even like? And they're part of the One Sith, which is this whole thing. Like the One Sith as a concept would be hard to introduce to audiences after the rule of two being the thing for mainstream audiences for so long. It's like, well, what if it was just one, but technically that means there's a lot. It's like, what?
Right.
What does that mean? Like, how are they? So it's,
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah, he also had some mind control issues, basically where he kind of melded with them, which is the idea behind a part of that One Sith. And even when he was in stasis, he was in contact with them, so it wasn't like he was oblivious to what was going on. But I mean, so if you have an expanded aspect, but I think the idea is that there's no way if you're going to introduce ideas or aspects or characters from Legends into canon that they can't be changed. They're not going to be, they're not going to be who they were in the Legends product. I mean, they're going to be different. If you introduce Mara Jade, she's going to be, she'll be different. If you have a Cade Skywalker in the future, that character will be different.
And if Cade Skywalker is a descendant of Rey instead of Luke, then I mean, how many people?
Right? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I think at this point, the idea is that you're just going to have to continue the story, whether you like this particular one or not. I mean, it's okay, so you didn't like Legends. Okay, so you didn't like the prequels. This is the story you have, and if you want to continue to enjoy Star Wars, this is the product you're given. And if you don't like it, then walk away, and or enjoy the pieces that you do like, and enjoy that. That's why. I engaged in fan fiction, right? Because I write it the way I like it, as opposed to what I hate, and that way I can go, well, that's mine, and that's what I like, and that way it's together,
Yeah, very good, very good. Anything else on the topic as we're coming up on the top of the hour? Anything else as we talk about A-Sharad Hett potentially showing up in Kenobi? I think the likelihood is quite high. Levi says, "Nah, not for me, thanks."
But I mean, part of the reason why this is a topic too is because that they just recently, I wrote an article. I do like a weekly comic thing for Hominid Marauders, and just recently they recanonized what his armor is, the Von Dune crab in the High Republic Adventures, and I wrote an article titled "Is Darth Krayt a crab?" as sort of a joke. But like they recanonized that element of like this is what his armor is, and this character has the same kind of armor, and it still exists in canon in some way. And so I think that's pretty interesting.
I think they're setting up a Magic Maker. If you were to put odds, and do you think that we'll get A-Sharad Hett in Kenobi as a cameo, or no? Or would you like it or not? What are your thoughts?
No, I like it. I think it's possible. I mean, but if you go off on my, my typical track record, I'll say, 25%. That way, it's the opposite.
Very good, my friend. Very good. Levi, I know you said you personally don't want it to happen, but what do you think the probability that it would happen?
I don't know if I think by 20%, I'd say, because you and Meg seem pretty confident, and so I'd say that's at least worth 20% of my confidence.
I've been led astray by Meg before, so
But I think
Meg.
It'd be really cool if it happened, man. It'd be super cool. It'd be super cool.
I think it gives us some stability in the idea. I mean, there's a reason why you called it Legends. And the idea behind Legends is that there's some inkling of truth in it, right? And so that's what makes it really cool. So you have this legend aspect, to story, and so this is told as mythology down the path. But now we have the truth, which is the canon, right? And so the idea that there's latent aspects of Legends in canon is very appealing to me, and so. I think, in all honesty, if you're going to bring people back into that story, it will be by having these twists on Legends in the canon.
Yeah, and as long as people are, are kind of chill with it. Like, yeah, it's a twist on a Legends character, and my take on all of it is you still have the thing that you love. Look, if the thing you really passionately love are the prequels, you still have them. You don't have to diminish your enjoyment of those by anything that's come after. Or if you really love Darth Krayt's Legends story, you still have those. They're not ever going to go away. And if the version that makes itself into canon is a slight twist on it, it's got some differences, you can say, okay, I like mine better. Right? I like the original better than the reinvented, but it does allow for people to get familiar. Like if you say Darth Krayt, they're like, oh, I know who that is. Well, you know a version of it, right? I know who Darth Talon is. Well, I know a version of it, right? And that's what
Right, right.
Justin's
Just, if
saying.
you just understand that everything that you know is passed down as word of mouth and as legend, and you're about to see the truth of the story when you perceive it, then I think that's the if you can get your head wrapped around that aspect of things, I think you'll begin to enjoy the canon Star Wars more if they go down that path. So the idea is you have legends, and these legends are told, and you may like the way that story is told better, but King
Here.
Arthur actually did this, and
Right.
so now you have the real story of King Arthur versus the story that you were told,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and then the movie before. So,
I think that's really good. I think that's really, really good. So any last words, Levi?
Other than I hope this happens. I'm excited. I'm happy to have talked about it to get more people of knowing who Darth Krayt is. Go read the Legacy run. It's great. Like you can read it without. It's so far set away from the rest of Legends that you can read it without having to understand everything that came before it. So it's just a pretty good. I mean, it's John Ostrander. He's a great writer, great art. I don't know. Go read Legacy. It's a good story. Good Star Wars story. It's really cool.
Excellent, excellent. And for you guys, Levi is they have their own YouTube channel. They've got lots of content you guys cover over at All New
Lots.
Nerds.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely love you
Almost
guys.
at 1,000 subs.
You're doing
Making
some
it.
great work. So I
going.
put a link to their YouTube channel here. If you guys go check them out, and if they're for you, consider subscribing and get them over that 1,000 mark. They're getting there, right? You're
Getting there.
Yeah, you're very close.
Yeah, very close.
Uh,
Around 900 now. We're in that final stretch.
Woo!
Yeah, it's very exciting, and you guys cover not just Star Wars stuff. You cover Marvel, DC. You guys covered the DC fandom, right?
Yes, we
All
did.
of that. Yes.
That Batman trailer. Ooh, hot diggity. Got me.
Hot diggity.
Oh, hot diggity dog. Quite the. But yeah, Star Wars is where we go, where I go at least deepest. I'm definitely the Star Wars expert over there, and then my other co-hosts know more about Marvel and DC respectively, and yeah, so that's where we come together to talk about nerd stuff. It's a good time.
You guys do a great job, so thank you so much for joining me again. And I cannot wait for that Thrawn novel to come out. We'll be talking again soon, my friend.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Thank you. And Imagic Maker. It's been a couple of weeks, but Imagic Maker and I have been co-hosting a show for over a year. We're pushing 2 years, I think, that we've
Yeah,
been
well.
collaborating together. And just introduce some folks who may not know you, what you're about and what you do.
Well, typically when I'm actually putting out videos, I'm usually about Star Wars fan fiction and then or meanings of things within Star Wars, and then trying to just talk about how to utilize things like archetypes and that kind of thing in writing your own Star Wars fan fiction, and encouraging you to explore and become create your own world so that you can do the things inside the universe that you enjoy.
Very good. Very, very good. And just one other small bit on that. Magic Maker's YouTube channel is called Reimagining Star Wars. There's a link in there. He also has Discord as well as the All New Nerds. They have Discords. Go check them out and follow them. Hopefully, a Magic Maker, you'll be getting back on the regular content stuff soon. But even if you don't, we're going to continue our collaboration, and starting in November, look for a Magic Maker and I to start covering fan fiction YouTube videos, and we'll make suggestions to you all. We'll get our takes on them and talk about them. Just try to introduce more people to more fan fiction content. And some of it you may like, some of it you may not. But that's the idea of fan fiction, and to allow people to kind of explore their creativity. And there are some really, really good stuff. And as we say, there's plenty to mine out of that well. there's plenty. So we're going to close out. I'm going to go ahead and we'll come back to Imagic Maker and Levi after the stream's over. But you guys, thank you so much for your time here. I've had a good time talking about A-Sharad Hett and Darth Krayt with you two, and look forward to talking to you again soon. So thank you, my friends.
Bye, everybody.
All right, and so I'll just kind of close it out here. If you guys have been following me, you know what's going to happen next. So hang on. Afterwards, I've got a little surprise for you. We'll have our Mike Porter dad joke of the day. And you guys, thanks so much for being here. I've had a great time. I hope you have too. And until the next time, my friends, Merry Christmas, and may the Force be with you always. Bye-bye. Hey, what's a Jedi's favorite style of singing? It would be yodeling, of course. Bye-bye.